Welcome everyone. This of course is Greg with MyoBrain. Thanks for checking out this video. As you likely know by now, this will be a video talking about goal setting, making this kind of mid-January of 2022. Of course, there's any time where you can be setting goals can be useful, but for a lot of us, this is a convenient time for us to be discussing goals. So let's dig into it. So I wanted to make some graphical representations of this because I think it's much easier to grasp once we can do it. So you'll see some pyramids, you'll see some flow charts. And again, I think visually this can really help connect dots on why we're doing this, what kind of processes can we really focus on every single day to ultimately reach our end goal and continue to do that over the long term. So I'll aim to be pretty succinct here, but I have a reputation of going a bit long. So I think big picture, a 3-tier pyramid works really well here. This is by nature meant to be incredibly vague, and then we'll get more specific. So at the top of the pyramid is our overall purpose for doing this. Almost all of us have a commonality of higher purpose, and it's usually is to be happier, right? For some of us, it may be to build confidence. It may be to live a long life so we can enjoy that with our loved ones. And for a lot of us, we have multi-purposes. It's not one single thing driving us, of course, but for simplicity's sake, a lot of us have a couple of tiers where those things are what's really, really driving all of our decision-making process. Then in this second tier, this is more commonly what when you signed up with us, you would say what you're actually trying to accomplish. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to back squat 225 pounds. I want to run a 7-minute mile, right? That's what our maybe fitness and physique goals are. But of course, that really then feeds into why do you want to lose 20 pounds? Because you want to build your confidence, or you think losing 20 pounds will make you happier, right? We all kind of have that, again, same purpose in mind. And of course, the bottom of the pyramid is how those things are actually going to get done, right? Because the goal of losing 20 pounds, that's a great goal, but nothing's really going to happen unless we have daily practices. So that's what we're eating, how we're sleeping, workouts, all of those tedious details, right? So again, this is a great framework that I think can be helpful, and we'll talk about why I think this can be a great way for you to kind of frame your goals heading into the new year, okay? So this is obviously a bit more specific example of how we could set these goals, and of course, there's dozens of ways we can do this. So for the purpose here, I said, again, ultimately, it's to build confidence. And for a lot of us, we may not even know what our higher purpose is. Again, maybe it's to be happier. Surely it is. Maybe it's to build confidence. Maybe it's to ultimately be the best representation of yourself. Those are all really good purposes. But spend some time to think about why you want, what you want, if that makes sense. And then the desired outcome. Again, most of us have some of these in common. Let's, for this example, say it's to lose fat and gain muscle or improve our body composition. And then, of course, we have our daily practices. And this is where the goal is to get hyper specific. I personally don't believe you need to, January 12th today, have a goal of, I want to lose 10 pounds by the end of March. I don't really think that's necessary for most people. It's fine if you have those goals. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think you need a general vision of where you're going, as in, hey, I want to improve my body composition. And then we need to have a ruthless expectation upon what daily practices are needed to improve that. Because we ultimately don't know if we want to lose 8 pounds or 15 pounds, or especially if it's a desired outcome like getting stronger, that's never ending, or improving my performance. Again, that's a never ending goal. The real goal is just improvement there. And of course, it's going to come through the daily practices. So for this example, we want to be highly specific here. Work out at home, so a location, 4 times a week, frequency, 12 to 1 p.m. Put it in your calendar so there's no messing around about when it's going to get done. Have a plan and then follow a program. And of course, that program would also be highly specific. It's going to be, I'm doing barbell bench press, 4 sets of 10 at 65%, resting 2 minutes in between sets. Then I'm going on to the next movement, right? And then from a nutrition standpoint, we have something here, tracking calorie intake 6 days per week, aiming for a certain calorie range. And of course, that would even be more specific. For example, 2,000 to 2,300 calories with 100 grams of protein, eating a fruit or vegetable at every single meal. Those would be your daily practices. Okay, so hopefully this is kind of connecting the dots here on this is all kind of what we're after, whatever your desired outcome is of why you came here, why you're doing this, feeding ultimately why you want to achieve that. And then these daily practices are ultimately what's going to get that outcome so we can ultimately reach our purpose. And again, this is not an end goal, but certainly a framework you can think about. And before we move on, the reason why I think it's helpful to have this framework is that during days and weeks and sometimes months where you ultimately don't want to do these daily practices because they're hard and sometimes inconvenient, you can reflect back on, why am I doing these things? And usually you can connect a dot pretty quickly. Well, I'm doing these things because I want to lose fat and gain muscle, or whatever that outcome is. But then you can reflect in your head of, well, why do I want that? Well, I want to do that because ultimately I want to build more confidence. I want to understand that I can achieve great things that I want. And I kind of love that feeling of achievement and pride. And when you have that framework, ultimately that can help you make an easier path to the daily practices it's going to take to get that done. Because let's face it, tracking our food isn't super fun, right? Workouts by themselves can sometimes be fun, but not always. And a lot of times they're uncomfortable. So when we can tie those daily practices into our desired outcome, which most of us do, but then tie that desired outcome into our purpose, that can really help us during those times where it's really inconvenient. We kind of don't want to do it. If we tie that back in, ultimately we can be more successful. Short break here. Okay, and moving on to page 3 of 4 here. So why we're focused on the daily process. And I gave an example here so this can be more concrete, but of course you'll get it. You can apply this to really any desired outcome you want, whether it's fitness or not. So right here we have improve one's body composition, aka lose fat and or gain muscle. Again, that outcome is great, but we need to know how we're going to actually achieve that so we can break that into not just 3, but probably dozens, if we really wanted to, daily practices. Of course, some are more impactful than others, so don't go crazy with trying to set yourself up with 50 daily practices to accomplish, right? Think about the big rocks we want to get right. So over here, we have track food and hit daily targets. Overall, a great nutrition daily practice. Get 7+ hours of sleep. Great for overall recovery. And then to lift weights for 45 minutes, maybe not every single day, right? But lift weights 45 minutes most days of the week, right? So these are the things that's going to feed day and day and day and week and week and week. It's going to help improve that body composition. And I think having multiple daily practices in which you know is ultimately going to feed that desired outcome can be very important for really 2 big reasons. The first reason is it's going to be hard to do a daily practice every single day, 365. But you likely, if you have 3 or 5 big daily practices that we all know feed into that outcome goal, it's highly likely that, you know, maybe if we're on vacation and we can't or don't want to track our food, however, we can get adequate sleep and we can continue to work out. Or maybe your knee is hurt, you can't really train, you're a runner, you can't train the same way you used to. Okay, you can't lift weights for 45 minutes every single day, or you have to do less on this daily practice, but we're still in control of our sleep or tracking our food. Or lastly, let's say you had a baby 3 weeks ago, and this is not going to happen for a little bit. That's all right. I'm still in control over tracking my food and lifting weights. Of course, we're all on the same page. The more daily practices we can get right at the same time, probably the quicker we're going to get to this desired outcome. But again, it's not going to be always realistic. So having the daily practice goal, having the goal of trying to master those daily practices can help you find wins regardless of your circumstances. And obviously it's easy if we're crushing everything all the time. But on those times where it's a little bit hard to do everything, you can still say, hey, of these 4 things that are really important to me, I'm still getting 3 done, and I'm still making some progress towards my outcome goal. And wrapping things up here, probably my favorite way to represent this, and I'm glad I made this graphic because I think sometimes graphics can make sense of some of my word vomiting that I'll do in check-ins sometimes. So hopefully this concept of a flywheel, and in this example, a positive behavior flywheel, can really make sense and hammer home, in addition, the daily practices and why they're so important. So doesn't matter really where we start, but let's kind of start here in the red, my favorite color, with adequate sleep, and we'll kind of go through this. So this first pinwheel here we have in the middle is adequate sleep, kind of feeding our green here, desire to work out, and then this is feeding our desire to eat well, which then further feeds our desire for adequate sleep. So doesn't take a lot of reasoning to understand this, but let's quickly go through it. Say you get 8.5 hours of sleep, and you kind of been sleep deprived, workout motivation hasn't really been there. We've all had that feeling of after a great night of sleep, you're like energized, you like want to go for a walk, you want to go train, all of those things. So by getting this daily practice correct, it actually makes this next daily practice easier to accomplish. That's why it's called the flywheel. Getting the first thing correct makes it easier for the second thing to also, in this example, be more achievable. Then let's say you got that great 8.5 hours of sleep, you go crush a workout super early in the morning. If you're feeling good, you just had a really good workout, it probably then feeds a desire to you want to capitalize on that workout with a very good breakfast, a very good lunch. You just worked really hard. Your goals are to get stronger, to get leaner. Let me eat a meal that is promoting that additional behavior. Then that you have a lot of this, again, self-efficacy that you've built up throughout that day. You say, hey, I had great sleep last night. I crushed my workout. I was in a great mood, so I ate well. I'm feeling really great. Let me continue to do that, and I'm going to go to bed at a proper time tonight so I can continue to make this roll, right? And that continues over and over and over. Then as you see on the outskirts of this flywheel, it's kind of an additional thing that can happen specifically within nutrition, exercise, fitness. So we kind of have these leaks out here, if you will, of progress towards your outcome. So in this example, we'll still be talking about improving body composition, meaning every time we do said thing, you're going to wake up after that adequate sleep, after you just ate well and worked out. Say if this is day 2 here we just went through, and you're going to notice some fat, got removed from that stomach over there. So having progress towards that outcome, along with the good quality sleep, feeds that desire even more. It's like a supercharged desire. Then you go and work out because you slept really well. You get a pump. You're seeing a vein you've never seen before. You're seeing some quad definition you've never seen before. That then feeds a desire that I want to continue to eat well. And you can see how this continues to leach out over and over and over again. So this positive flywheel is what I talk a lot about with individuals around just positive momentum. It's really hard to jump in the flywheel. That's a tough hurdle to cross, and that's where I really think this pyramid approach really can be helpful. Of, hey, why do I want to lose fat and build muscle? It's for this purpose. That purpose is going to help me get started today, to eat a good breakfast today, to work out today, etc. But then once we get into that flywheel, it becomes easier and easier to stay in it. You may go weeks, you may go months where you don't even think about why you're doing it. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's really positive momentum. It's a positive flywheel we don't have to think about so often. And when we kind of reflect back, and I'll wrap up on this, I'll be under 15 minutes. When we reflect back on our more successful clients, we see a lot of them doing this. They get in the habit and the routine of making good decisions. It may not even be something they're consciously thinking about. They wake up because they slept pretty well, they eat a healthy breakfast, they have their workout in their calendar, they get their workout done, they grab their post-workout smoothie, and they repeat it, and they repeat it, and they repeat it. The same thing can happen when you get in a negative behavior flywheel Of course, I'm not going to go through an example of that, but it can be hard to get out of it. If you get poor sleep, that makes it harder to work out. When you're not really working out, you think, well, what's the point of eating well if I'm not going to train? And then you're not working out, you're not really eating well. It's like, well, why do I need to sleep? I don't need to recover from anything. It can be hard to get the ball rolling. So to summarize all of this, I really want you to think about, what is that higher purpose I'm trying to achieve? It's kind of my and our weekly check-in goals of these outcome and daily practices are a bit easier to articulate with us. But spend some time on this higher purpose. And anytime we're not feeling super motivated, it's a little bit inconvenient to make the right decision, think of that flywheel effect and think of that purpose. The purpose is pretty much going to allow you to jump into this flywheel and understand, if I can just get that good night of sleep, if I can just get that workout in today, if I can just track my food today, it's going to be easier tomorrow because I'm going to want to do these things. I'm going to see the results, and that's going to be a very self-fulfilling process in a positive way for me. All right, so that is the video. Really looking forward to a 2022 working with all of you. Of course, if you have any questions for me, follow up with me or follow up with your individual coach, and we'll obviously dive into more details. Hopefully you enjoyed this and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.